Partners in Torah Shmor. Does everybody have a seat? There are some more chairs floating around. That's Georgia's. That's Georgia.
How did you figure out?
Rachel, there are chairs. Do you need? You're good. Okay. So first of all, thank you so much for coming to another Partners in Torah Shmor. For those of you who know me, I'm sorry. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Pinchas Landis. I am the director of Partners in Torah Cleveland, and we are a organization that's been here about 5 years. We do a lot of Jewish learning programs around the community. Our flagship program is the program we do here every single Tuesday night of the year, pretty much, barring Jewish holidays, a lot of which do coincide with Tuesdays this year. So please consider joining us to learn on a Shmorg night, not on a Shmorg night. We do the Shmorg like you see here once a month, but even on the non-Shmorg nights we have a lot of fun with our learning. If for whatever reason Tuesday nights don't work for you, except for when we have really good food and Dr. Koyfman speaking, then we have a lot of other learning opportunities as well. We have lunch and learns in people's offices. We actually have our Torah on Tap program together with Moshe House, which will be this Thursday. You can speak to Blair over there about it if you're interested. We have a lot of digital learning opportunities and much, much, much more. You can find out more on our website, www.torahcleveland.com. And we also want to thank the Zuckerman family. The Zuckerman family is our sponsor for tonight. They are actually here. They're not in this room, I don't think. So if you see them, be sure to thank them on your way out. If you would like to sponsor a future Shmorg, you can speak to me afterwards. We'd love to have you. With no further ado, I'd like to introduce my very, very dear friend, Dr. Shlomo Koyfman. We go back about 25 years when I had a little more hair and he didn't, but it's okay. And Dr. Koyfman will be speaking on the topic of evaluating your values, lessons learned from leadership at Cleveland Clinic. So with no further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Koyfman.
Thank you. Hi everybody, good evening. I tend to walk around a lot, so whatever. I've never been blamed for being too quiet. I just wanted to give a thanks to Rabbi Landis, but he ran out. Just a tremendous thank you to Partners in Torah. They have done amazing things in Cleveland. I've actually never been to one of these, and I'm shocked at it. It's amazing. I'm here with my lovely wife, thank you, and I am a radiation oncologist at the Cleveland Clinic. And what I want to do today is something that really kind of blew my mind. I don't know about you guys, I see a lot of familiar faces in the room, so I happen to know this for a fact. Nobody likes long speeches, we all get kind of bored. We're going to do a little audience participation time. So I had the privilege of going through leadership training at the clinic. I'm a radiation oncologist at the clinic. I've been there. We're from the East Coast. We decided, why would you ever live on the East Coast? So we moved to the Midwest about 13 years ago. I trained at the clinic, and then I went on a staff. And they have leadership training for cohorts. So in the cancer center, we had leadership training. I was a leader at the time. I'm still not a leader. I don't know how I got in, but somehow I was the only guy there that did not have a leadership position. But I weaseled my way in, and I learned some amazing, amazing things there. I have dreams of bringing this to lots of places, but we're going to start here tonight. I want to do one that they did with us in the training. There were chairmen of departments and administrators and research people and clinicians and all this and that. But I feel like it's a really helpful exercise, especially for this time of year. So, you want to eat, keep eating, but I need helpers. Because everybody's got to get a piece of paper and a pen. Okay? So I'm just going to leave a bunch of pieces of paper on tables. And everybody take a piece of paper. Okay? I'm a radiation oncologist, so I get to draw on CT scans. Okay?
Oh, that you can all over this.
I get to draw on CT scans. And what I tell my patients, I often just do,
Everyone's got one?
and the pens are coming. I have a bag of pens, but before the pens, you overeat your people. Let's start with this. Did anybody not get paper? We have lots of paper. Lots of paper. Everybody take a piece. Word. Everybody has? Who doesn't have? Lots of paper, lots of Okay, everybody has a piece of paper. We are going to do paper folding. Everybody ready for this? Everybody just fold it in half. Just fold it in half. fold your paper in half.
Which half?
Everybody see what I did? Lengthwise, paper folding. This is what we do at the clinic. Why do we charge you so much money? I don't know. We fold paper, okay? Everybody did this? Okay, do it again. Now fold it one more time. One more time. Everybody, you got 2 folds, right? It looks like a little square. Everybody good? Now do it again. Everybody good? 3 folds. We're good. Little rectangle. And one more time. Okay, okay. Everybody got a little schmitching here, right? Everybody's got a little thing? Yes? Good. Now, if you open up your paper, how many boxes do we have? Quick math. How many boxes do we have? 16. Everybody should have 16 boxes. If you did not have 16 boxes, you're hopeless. Forget it. You're done. Go home.
Thank you. You get a pen. Everyone gets a pen. I don't know.
Now, in the interest of time, while everybody is trying to grab a pen, we may need to share pens. Lesson number 1 is, life may give you a few pens to few. Okay, so I don't have a pen. I have a pen. Yeah. Who doesn't have a pen? I don't need a pen, right? Do I need a pen? Whoever needs a pen, raise your hand. Anybody need a pen? Everybody's got a pen? Okay. Are we ready? Now we should have 16 boxes on your paper. Now here's the ask. What I want you to do is imagine that you have to, right now, which you're not imagining, you will do. What we have to do is we have to write down our 16 most precious values. What? The 16 things that are most precious to us in the world. The 16 things that are most precious to you in the world. It could be your wife, your kids, a great cup of coffee, the gym, a late sleep, God, Sam Harris, Trump, Buttigieg, I don't care. Your 16 most precious things in the world that you hold most dear. No order. And now, you cannot repeat. So if you might have 7 children, do not write all of their names. Especially don't write 6 and leave 1 out. That would be terrible. But the bottom line is, family can only count as 1. You're not getting away that easy. Family can only count as 1. Never. Ruin your host. Your host. Hopeless. So now I'm going to do this too. I've done this quite a few times, and every time I do it, I find it valuable. Because I basically use the same material again and again. It's important. So, everybody, no. 16 separate boxes, 16 separate values. It might be truth. It might be kindness. It might be love. It might be the Beatles. Whatever it is, 16, the things, your values, the things you care about most in the world, go. By the way, all religious kind of things, for many of the people in the room who are religious, they're 1 box. You can call it faith, you can call it God, but you got 1 box, guys, 1 box. Don't give me Shabbos and Yom Tif and Cholent and Kishka. Okay? Coffee and wine can count separately for obvious reasons.
What about chocolate? That's totally a different
That takes
category.
2 boxes.
Is there a difference between chocolate and sweets?
No. Go for it. We're going to take about 1 more minute to do this, partially because I'm only halfway through. Is anybody having trouble filling out all 16 boxes? Okay, is anybody having trouble because they have too many and they can't narrow it down? Only one. So isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Like if I asked you how many things you care about, there's definitely more than 16 things in the world you care about. But yet when we have to put them on paper, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Rabbi Landish just made me remember laughter. Laughter.
So, can we go on the back then?
If you have, no, 16. Trust me, you'll see, it's going to be okay. Don't worry. Okay, so everybody basically pretty close to 16? 30 more seconds.
I got
30 more seconds. Deadlines is one of the 16. Okay, now everybody has their 16, right? We don't have a lot of time. Normally what I would do is we would stop for about 10 minutes and just debrief about what that was like. Was that hard? Was that easy? Etc. If there's no time, we're going to move on. But just remember, all things in life matter more when you think about them. So everybody has their page of 16. Now, the reason we folded the paper is we are going to rip along the creases to get 16 different pieces of paper with 16 different things on them. So everybody just rip, get 16 different things that you care about on separate pieces of paper. Don't worry if it's not ripped perfectly, as long as you have 16 values of some sort.
Whatever you want to take to
I put my cats on.
I want cats, but she's
It's
allergic.
fair.
I wish I had cats too. I wish I wasn't.
Things that you love, things that you have.
That's easier to lick it first.
Now, as you're ripping, we're about to go to the next part. Okay? Everybody has 16 individual pieces of paper with one thing that you prize, one precious thing on each page, right? So, one thing I neglected is a very good babysitter. Is definitely should have been on there.
I never got a vaccine.
Not your own daughter. That's not Okay, now, I want you to imagine that a Nazi walks in the room right now, has a gun to our head. He's not going to threaten you. Who cares about you, right? He's going to take your favorite child, and to all the kids in the room, your parents.
I'm the favorite, right, Dad?
Your parents have no favorites. To the parents, your favorite child, and the Nazi has a gun to your head, and he says, "I am going to kill this kid unless you violate one of the things, unless you give up something that you care about." Okay? So we have 16 things. We have our handy dandy recycling container for paper, because we're sustainable. And we are now going to take the 4 things that are ranked lowest, that matter the least, and throw them in the garbage. Everybody come up with the 4 that you are going to get rid of, and take your values, throw them in the garbage. And when you're doing that, what that means is you will have to actually give this up in life. So if one of your values is truth, you're going to have to lie. If one of those values is chocolate, you're never seeing Hershey's again. Okay? That's what this means.
Does Godiva count then?
Godivas might even be a whole nother level, but yes, even Godiva. These are Nazis. They don't care. Okay? Everybody, I hope in seconds people are coming up and taking their 4 and throwing them in the garbage. Now it helps to be able to see them all at once because it's really hard to do this without doing that. Everybody throw out 4.
You didn't throw me out.
Everybody throw out 4.
I can be stupid and still a little bit smart. I can regain my intelligence.
Everybody throw out 4.
There you go.
30 seconds left.
Here, I can take everyone's recycling.
No, I'm keeping my creativity.
I had to give up chocolate and freedom and intelligence.
My cats are going in the first round.
I kept cats. I also am giving away candy. She's gonna give me chocolate when we get home. By the way. She has to finish my homework.
There you go. You get power chocolate here. Really excellent power chocolate.
Yeah, that was the first time I ever had chocolate.
Okay, everybody threw out 4. I'm still figuring out what my next one is. Okay, everybody threw out 4. How was that?
Not good.
Can I ask a question? Was that hard? Who thought that was hard? Who thought that was no big deal? Okay. Now, ready for the next step?
Another 4.
What Nazi ever stopped at 4? So now you have to take your next 4 and throw them in.
What?
And remember, this means you are literally going to live without these. You are going to violate. So,
What's funny is that one of us actually likes it. I have this stuff I just got.
Yes. I've done as well. I'm giving up cats. I'll give you back later. I'm just going to my top. I'm taking
Another 4?
because who needs to when you split?
He's gonna.
another 4. There's garbage in the back, garbage in the front.
I'll give away time. Yes, because then I can live in an alternate universe with no time. Then I can live on forever. I'm gonna laugh again. Laughter. I doubt I'm gonna stop laughing after I do
There is my imagination.
Okay, everybody throw out.
Somebody's still holding on to one that says brown.
Is everybody down to 8? Down to 8. You gotta get down to 8. guys.
I'm giving away
You're not
laughter
even a
as well,
good
but I
team.
doubt I'll stop laughing.
Hold
I
on to
doubt
it.
it.
I don't have 4 yet.
I'm giving away laughter, but I doubt I'll
I
stop
got
laughing.
4 and I got 8.
Just decide now because
Okay, everybody, and then there were 8. Everybody's good with 8? Max, they do this in
well,
Dartmouth?
looks like I'll never be happy again.
I gotta give you
In Dartmouth they do this?
Free will.
last thing.
Okay, guys, everybody have their 8. Now, who thought that was hard? Who thought that was harder than the first 4? Who thought that was easier than the first 4? Okay, so it's getting harder, right? Next 4. Throw out your next 4. Right? Throw out your next 4.
Dare throw me in his
You are throwing out things like the wife and kids, truth,
What if I give away
Justice,
life?
the American way.
What if I give away life? Does that mean I die?
Yes. Well, that's such a deep idea. How old are you?
I'm 12.
Wow. Okay, guys, you got to get rid of 4 more. Come on, time is wasted. What time do we have till? 8:30? We got to get moving.
I guess I'm living in a sister's boy.
I'm giving up fun. I'm giving away friends. Wait a sec. If I give away family, does that mean my friends will become my family?
Nope.
No,
One or the other.
really, you
One or
become
the
a friend.
other.
I'm giving away love. I'm giving away love. That sucks. You know what? I'm
Okay, everybody threw away 4. How many do we have left? How many do we have left? 4. Everybody has 4 left, right? Okay, show of hands. Was that harder than the last one? Who says yes? Who says no? Okay, so some people say, who said no? Somebody tell me why.
Because I figured you were going to prioritize to, 1 or 2.
Wait, there was one I
So I
changed my
just
mind.
said, these are the 2, 3 most important. So the others were easier to get rid of.
Ah, he's too smart. So now he knows my strategy. So now that we have the 4 things we care most about in the world, I just want everybody to take 30 seconds and look at your notes and read them. Because these are the 4 things that matter most to you in the world. So you should really know what they are, like that. Like that. You know it like that.
48 cats.
Right? Now, I want to ask you guys a question. How much of your day today did you spend on these 4? This is a rhetorical question. I just want to know, how much of your time today did you spend on this? And how much of your day did you spend on one of these 4? Or all? I'm just asking questions. It could be that you all did everything fabulous. I'm just posing. I spent a lot of time on this freaking thing today. Okay, so anyway, everybody comfortable with their 4 favorite things in the world? Okay, now you have to throw out 1.
What?
You have to throw out 1. You gotta be left with 3. If there's a Nazi in there, he's a Nazi.
No.
He will ask for everything. So you need to throw 1 out. Which one do you throw out? Right now, there are people right now choosing between their spouses and their health. Love and truth. Honesty and justice.
I'm keeping magic.
I didn't say what I know. I understand. No, that'll come. But not. Okay, is everybody good with 3? Was that harder or easier?
That was harder.
Harder. Interesting. When I did this in the clinic, we actually felt at some point it started to get easier. Usually between 8 and 2, it usually gets kind of like what you said. For some not. But now we're going to go from 3 to 2. Off you go. 1 more in the garbage. Now the wife and kids are really being jeopardized.
I'm giving away life.
Guess all that.
No, give away magic. Magic can resurrect you. So you guys keep magic. Keep
So the
magic
2
and
things you have left in your hand are the 2 things you cannot live without. You would not want to live your life if you did not have these 2 things. It's not that important. It shouldn't be in your hand. You cannot imagine life without these 2 things. Everybody clear on this? Everybody know what their 2 things are? Everybody got it good? Good. Now let's go down to our final one. What is the one you will keep in your hand? You got to get down to the one thing you value most in the world.
You can give away Isabel. You keep me.
The one thing you value most in the world.
Last piece of paper.
I think I'm ready to not to shoot you too.
What's that?
I'm ready to
Wait,
not
what
to
should
shoot you.
I do?
Right. So, who feels that they cannot give up from 2 to 1, they'd rather be dead.
I already am dead. I gave him life.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm already dead.
So for those, they have a tie. I know that feeling. I feel that feeling, right? I like my wife a lot. My kids a lot.
But she was the first to go.
But my wife and kids,
I
my
give them
wife and
magic.
kids. They really did. And my wife is, I'm still alive, because this is not the first time she's heard that. The first time I had body armor, I had security. So I really want you guys to try to get down to 1. I know it's hard, but I want you to try to get down to 1. And by the way, I wish this was theoretical, because it's not. This is Jewish history. This is Jewish history. How many times have Jews had to make these choices throughout our history? Way too many times. But I'm not doing this for what if your life was threatened, because who cares about that? Our life is fine, right? I'm doing it because, as Mel Gibson said in Braveheart, right, if you don't know what you're willing to give up your life for, you can't even start living. Both are going to be important, but try to get down to your 1.
Family.
Is everybody down to their 1? Good. Now, who here, as number 1, I'm going to ask, oh, by the way, nobody has to answer. It's totally private. It's between you and you. Nobody ever has to know. But for those who want to volunteer, who here, number 1 is family? Some family-related thing. That's a lot. Most. Who here, number 1, is health? No one. Wow. Okay. Who here, number 1, is faith, belief? Okay. Somebody that I didn't hit their number 1, somebody tell me what it is.
God.
What?
God.
God is faith, fine. Anybody else?
Kindness.
Kindness, number 1. Any other number 1s that I missed that you're willing to share?
Truth.
Truth. Any others? So we got it. We got family, we got faith / belief system, we got kindness, we got truth. Did I miss one?
Health.
Health.
And no one agreed to that.
No one agreed to that. Okay, so I want to share with you mine. Mine are none of those things. And I'll share with you mine. But this exercise, I didn't know this until, when did I do this? I don't know. I'm in my mid-30s. I'm, thank God, wife, 7 kids, I'm a doctor at the clinic, whatever. And I never had this sorted out until I did this exercise. But it's a tremendous exercise for the following reason. Here's what I discovered is my number 1. For anybody who doesn't know, I have an obsession with Noah Weinberg, who founded Aish Torah. Never met the man. Never met the man. I named my kid after him, but never met him. But I think he would agree to this. I think I got it from him. My number 1 is wisdom. Wisdom. Now, why wisdom? Why wisdom? So I'm just giving you my 2 cents, but I think whatever I think about wisdom is why all of you are here tonight. Why are you at Partners in Torah? I mean, other than the shmor, right? Because we like shmores. The reason everybody's here is because everybody intuitively understands that there's something special that goes on here every week. By the way, he has no idea what I'm talking about. So why wisdom? Because let's say your most precious thing in the world is your wife and kids. Or maybe it's kindness, or maybe it's truth, or maybe it's love, or whatever it is, right? So let's say I want to be the kindest person ever. How do you do that? How do you do that? When do you say the right thing, the wrong thing? How do you do it? How do you manage truth when somebody you love is asking you, how do I look in this dress? Right? How do I negotiate that conflict? I have a wife and I have kids. How do you treat them? How do you know how to cherish them properly? How to value them properly? How to empower them properly? How to appreciate them properly? One thing I didn't hear is gratitude, which is a big one. You want to be grateful. How do you do that? So the reason I said wisdom is because I believe that every single value we hold dear, notice nobody had chocolate and coffee and all of those things. Think about some of the first ones you threw away and how much easier that was than the last few you threw away, right? So the idea is the things that we hold most precious, it's not so obvious how to maximize that in your life. It's not so obvious how to maximize your values in your life. So why do I talk about this now? So I teach Mini Musser, which is JFX has a fabulous program with the high school kids, and I teach the high school kids on Sunday morning, once or twice a month. And I asked them the following thing. So I asked them, who's excited for Rosh Hashanah? And I got wonderful answers from, these are typically kids in public schools. Some of them went to Jewish day school, some of them did not, they're all in public school now. And I asked who's excited for Rosh Hashanah and what they're excited about. Everybody raised their hands. If I asked you guys what you're excited about, probably half of you would give me serious answers, half of you would say what they said, which is, food, apples, honey, family time, chauffeur, so good. So what I told them is about is there anybody who works at the Cleveland Clinic here? Okay. So some people will know intuitively what I'm about to talk about. So what I told these high school kids about is my APR. Now, what's an APR? An APR is an annual performance review. It's not unique to the Cleveland Clinic. I'm sure everybody in some capacity at work has something like this. But an APR is an annual performance review, and this is where I get to go in front of not my boss, but my boss's boss, right? I have to go in front of my institute chairman, and I have to spend hours preparing my dossier of my year. And it goes like this, right? Patient care, right? How many consults did you see? How many patients did you see? How much revenue did you bring in? How much, how many, how did you collaborate with your, referrers, et cetera, Did you have any safety events? What was the quality of your care? Blah, 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 patient care. Good. Then, research. How's your research going? How many papers did you publish? How many grants did you get? How many times did you present? How many times did you have invited lectureships? Were they national? Were they international? Then service. How many committees were you in the clinic? How many committees were you in the institute? How many in the institution? How many professional societies? What do you do for them? How do you volunteer? Any awards you got? Any grants you got? Any recognition you got? Then my favorite, what is your social media presence? How well do you tweet? Because of course the U.S. News and World Report, which I hope none of you believe, is based on reputation scores, which is largely based on just tweeting. And more, right? And all of our things, and education. How many residents did you train, right? They get to grade you. On every resident you train gets to give you a score compared to your benchmark in your department and every other doc in the clinic. And what were the narratives they said? What were your weaknesses that needed to be worked on? What were your strengths? Right? So we get this whole thing that we have to prepare. We sit in front of our boss's boss, they review it, and they say, so how's it going? We review all this stuff. And then they ask a really interesting question. So you have to kind of do this, what we call in Judaism, cheshbon hanefesh, right? You have to take stock, which means stop and think, which is very rare these days. You have to stop and you have to think. And then they say, so how did you meet your goals for this year? And then you say, shoot, what were my goals for this year? So you got to make up some stuff for your goals for the year, and then you have to see how you did. And then they ask you the really helpful question, which is, and where do you want to be at this time next year? So you can imagine that when you're a high school kid hearing this, you're like, whoa. And that actually is true. This is what we do, and it takes hours. But in the end, it's really rare for it to go bad. It usually goes well, but it's a really helpful thing to try to reflect on where you are and where you want to be. So in just a few weeks, we're going to be at Rosh Hashanah, and for all of the fabulous meals and prayers and introspection and chauffeur and food and family, Rosh Hashanah is our APR. That's what it is. It's our annual performance review. So, interestingly, I have never done this to this day, although I promised the kids I would before Rosh Hashanah, so now I have to. I've never actually sat down in my life and said, let me just do an APR on what I care about most. How am I doing with my truth, with my wisdom, with my family, with my love, with my kindness, with my friendship, with my integrity, with my justice, with my unselfishness, gratitude, etc. How am I doing with all those things? And in Judaism, remember, in the business world, it's all about results, right? It's all about results. I ask the kids, what do you measure? Results, 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 results. So I asked, what about intention? Does that count? So in the real world, not really, but in the real world, a lot. So even if you did everything you do exactly the same, with one intentionality you do it, right? What's your kavanah? What's your intention? What's your goal? What was your attempt, irrespective of the result, right? We get to be judged by he who can figure all that stuff out and make that calculation, which no human being can do. And then, a really important part of this is not just weighing the relative quantity and quality of what we do, our actions, and our intentionality, and where we want, what we really want. But the other is impact. So what's impact? So the way I define impact is by one of my favorite books of all time. It's right up there with Good to Great, and it is called The Little Bug That Went Cutshoe. Has anybody ever read the book, The Little Bug That Went Cutshoe? Right, this is what we read on our little kid. Guys, this is a classic. For those sophisticated people, you've heard of the butterfly effect? Everybody's heard of the butterfly effect, right? A butterfly flaps its wings in Africa, and we, in the Federation building just, collapses. Well, that's what happens with the little bug that went cutshoe. So it's interesting because it's an idea that you can teach a 4-year-old, and yet every single day we forget this basic, crucial idea. Now, I have a question. Who here actually does this kind of exercise every year? Whether New Year's, Rosh Hashanah, I don't care when. Not professionally, because you were made to. Personally, in your own person, who here does something like this at least once a year? Okay. Is there anybody here who does it more often? I have one. Maybe 1.5. Okay, good. So, why? So, I've given this talk before, right? I believe this in my soul. Why don't we do this? Let me ask you a different question. Let's start out this way. Who here thinks this would be useful? So why don't we do it? You tell me. Why don't we do it?
It's a lot of work.
It's hard. What's hard about it?
It's emotionally hard.
You have to confront things you may not like about yourself or your actions in the past.
Right. Have you guys ever been married? That's unavoidable. I'm kidding, but I hear you, right? You have to really be honest with yourself and maybe expose yourself to things looking in the mirror that you don't want to see. So that's one, that's hard. What else? Why else don't we do it? Time. That's a really good point. Time, it takes time. Good. What else?
Didn't know about it.
You didn't know about it. Fabulous, fabulous. You're 12, you get a buy. We have no excuse. Yeah.
We don't value it.
We don't value evaluation. You see, what we are talking about is evaluation. You know what the word for that in Judaism is? Is erech, la'arov, to evaluate. That is how Maimonides brings down what happens in Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is the evaluation. You know what Rosh Hashanah? You know why Rosh Hashanah is called what it's called? It's called Yom Adin, the Day of Judgment. Kind of not the best name for it. It's called Yom Truah, because we blow the shofar, but also called Yom Zichron Truah, which is how we know on Shabbat we don't blow the shofar. What's Zikaron? What does Zikaron mean?
Remember.
Memory. What happens when we remember something? Why is Rosh Hashanah the day of memory? We say Zichron. What's memory? What does it mean? When you say, oh, I just remembered, what happened?
It comes to the forefront.
It comes to the forefront, exactly. What happens is, there are things here that are there, but you are completely unaware of them, and all of a sudden you bring it into your awareness. If you had to say what Rosh Hashanah is all about, probably the most fundamental idea in all of Judaism, what I teach the kids every day is, rule number 1 in Judaism is, thou shalt not be a zombie, okay, is awareness, right? Squirrels don't need awareness other than acorns, female squirrels don't get killed, right? And maybe don't jump from that tree to that tree.
Watch out for cars.
Okay? But other than that, right, they don't have to go through this. But we people, if we're not going to be squirrels, we need awareness. Memory means you become aware of something you once knew that you were temporarily unaware of, and now it becomes in your consciousness, it's in your awareness. That's what Rosh Hashanah is. And that's, once you're aware of something, you can evaluate it. You can weigh relative. What we just did is prioritization. Okay? You know how I knew we should do this? Because it's wisdom. So, by the way, wisdom the way with Noah Weinberg translated Torah Chaim, Torah Chaim, a living Torah, which is like Torah, everybody says Torah, Torah, Torah. He said it's wisdom for living. That's what Torah is. Torah is wisdom, which is why it is what kept the Jewish people together forever and will continue to. It's our consciousness. It's our awareness. It's what clues us in so we're not squirrels. So it's really hard to do this work, but everybody basically here raised their hand and said, man, this would be helpful. So I just want to ask again, a question. As painful as this is, how many people subjected themselves to the torture of watching the first Browns game this season? Right? Like, that's 4 hours. This takes 2, once a year. And it might actually help you because, again, when you start evaluating these things, how do you measure life? We're coming up, Rosh Hashanah, we're going to say all these things, life and death, oh my gosh, it's very dramatic. Bottom line, everything has a unit of measurement, right? Weight is in pounds, ounces, kilograms, right? Speed is meters per second, miles per hour. How do you measure life? What's the unit of measurement for life?
The years that you live?
Growth.
Growth, years, any others?
Quality.
Quality, length of your days,
The closest to God?
closeness to God. I'm like a doctor, right? So I want a number, right? So I want a unit.
A 120?
I'm hearing my 10th grade chemistry professor, like stoichiometry, it's like units. So the unit of time is, the unit of life is time. Your life is measured in time. That's what it is, right? The minute you are no longer in time, you are no longer, at least in this state. Time is our most precious commodity. It's our most precious resource. It is us. That is how our existence is measured in time. You have a beginning, you have an end, and you're going. So, again, what I'm trying to maybe bring out is I'm just throwing out an idea. What if we all, in this room, could you imagine, if we all decided that somehow, some way this year, we're all going to do this. You might be 12, you might be 82, doesn't matter. What if we all decided we're going to take 1 hour in the next 2 weeks, and we're just going to quickly try to do a mini APR on the things that, on our last 4, just our last 4, forget all the rest. Just take your last 4, how are we doing? What went well? What I would say is, what are you most proud of in that area? And what are you most disappointed in? That's really a good way to get your extremes. What are you most proud of and what are you most disappointed in? Do that for your top 4. That's 8 items. May not even take half an hour. Although, once you start, it probably will. Because you'll be fascinated with yourself. Because you are all fascinated. You know nothing in this world better than you know yourself. And nobody knows you as well as you know yourself. You are the absolute universe's eternal expert on you. You should invest in you. And that's really what Rosh Hashanah is, frankly. It's a great thing to do during the excruciating long time. So, on Rosh Hashanah, right, take a couple hours and just think. It's just pen and paper. It's a little easier with pen and paper. So what I want to just throw out there in the last couple minutes is just to reflect on this. What if we actually did this about the things we care about most? And then I just want to point out, what if we actually put it in units of time? The time that we allocate to our most precious resources. Obviously, making a living may not be our best thing, but it's all of our time, so that is what it is. But still, how would that help us think about where we are now and where we are next year? And this is what I did with the kids. Last year, we wrote down on paper this. We took 10 minutes and we wrote down what we're most proud of and what we're most disappointed in, and what we were hoping to do for the following year. Mora Kim Farkas put it away, and we just took them out this Sunday, and I got to read my paper. I'm going to show you. I got to read my paper from a year ago. It was overwhelming. I totally forgot I had time. And I got to tell you, it was an amazing thing. So my pitch is evaluate your values. Who knows what you might find? Thank you.